Sorry about that, guys. Had another unexpected mishap with the camera phone, so we're going to get right back to it. I had to delete a bunch of crap off my phone so that I could continue filming with it. So we were back to got the HPCS loaded with Createx illustration paint, and we're going to grab our stencil and see if we can't get a little skull going. I'm going to take y'all and spin y'all around, adjust down, and we're going to try that. First of all, we'll choose a skull stencil that we want. I have a small version of it. Got a couple different skulls actually. I have one of them is an R tool, Craig Fraser stencil that we'll be using maybe. Trying to find a big skull. I guess I could have been doing that before I started filming, I guess. But it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be like me. So we have our R tool, Craig Fraser skull stencil, just for example, and then I have two of these that a buddy of mine gave me, and they're just cut out of stencil material. They're the same thing, they're just little quick skulls. So we'll grab the brush and you know what, we'll actually throw a little bit of high performance reducer in there just to kind of break it up a little bit. I mean, the stuff is really thin, but just for purposes of drying and stuff like that, will kind of speed up the process, because high performance reducer really kind of gets that going, that drying process going. So to warm up, we can, do some little dots, get our hand going. You can do dagger strokes, or we can do lines, which is also a form of a dagger stroke. You just don't adjust it, and just kind of get your hand good and loose. And we'll take, and I'll try and stay out of the way of the camera, and we'll just kind of fog in real light. Some of our different structures. I'm not real good with the two-handed thing, but practice makes perfect. And I know this has been done millions of times. We'll check the camera and see what we got. Cool. Whenever I was given this stencil, I wasn't quite sure I understood the circle that is cut out of the center. I don't really care for it, but just stay away from it and you'll be able to hide it later. And if you see that you kind of lose some of, you didn't really go in quite enough, line all your lines back up and just kind of fog in a little bit more so you can have that detail. And from the looks of it, it's got two different brow lines, and I'm assuming that, whenever they had this in mind, you could spray, we'll just do this for demonstration purposes, spray one eye that you do like. I don't really use this one that often. And then flip it around if you wanted to, kind of get it going in the direction, and do both eyes the same. But what we're going to do is we're just going to leave it like it is. I mean, it is a homemade stencil, so we're just going to go in here and like we did on our other skull, just going to kind of go in there and soften up these edges. And I know it probably looks really harsh right now, but we'll kind of black it out. For illustration purposes or just for practice, we're just going to black them out. Kind of give us a good landmark in it. Really helps whenever, see how that part right there bothers me, that the two eyes are different. So that being said, I could probably take and fix that. It just looks like it cuts across too much. And we can just kind of fill it in. Once again, this is a beginner type deal. It's gonna be real complicated. See how we just kind of put that back in there and brought that line around. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about whenever you're changing your stencil, you know, from what the original looked like. These are just giving you rough outline and good landmarks to go by. You're only limited by your imagination. I'm feeling kind of stove up this morning. My hands are really stiff. They get really stiff for whatever reason, and it makes it kind of tough to airbrush. All right. So we got some pretty dark spots in there. And this kind of starts setting the mood. Your eyes always tell a story, even if there is no eyes, believe it or not. So, in the expression on the skull's face can be determined by the angle of the brow. You can really arch it up. I'm going really hard so it'll show up on camera. You can arch it up and give him a kind of an attitude. Keep one brow down, bring one up, and just by changing the angle of the brow, you can really give your skulls a lot of attitude or a lot of expression. This is kind of a blank stare type thing, I would think. So we're just going to kind of leave it like it is, and we're going to put our stencil back up here. Line all our stuff back up. And we're going to start kind of building our background a little bit. Kind of pushing the background back away from the skull. And this is what I'm talking about for edge control. See how there's not a defined line here as there is here. There's not. You would, in order to make this look right, in my opinion, you would have to kind of, and I've started angling my airbrush to control my overspray. I mean, this is nothing new, and I'm not rewriting any books or anything like that. This is just stuff that I've discovered that I wanted to share, and we're just talking, and it's mainly a therapy session for me. And if, and helping you guys, learn from my mistakes. And see how this is much better. There's not really a defined line anymore. So whenever you're darkening these outside edges, you're bringing the skull forward, literally. And if you think about it and you don't understand what I'm saying, by pushing and pulling stuff, think about if you was playing with some Play-Doh and you want to push the eyes in, or the area that the eyes go, so that you can continue pulling facial features forward. If you think about it, airbrushing is a lot like sculpting, in that fact that your darker areas are always going to be more recessed, and all your lighter colors are going to be coming towards you typically, because the highest point is going to be closest to the light. And airbrush is a good way to point that out, or any kind of shiny object, because if you look at it, the parts that are the shiniest are going to be the ones facing the light, are going to be higher. So you want to pull the brow ridges and all the structures forward and push your darkest areas back. And if we want to get in here and really push them back without making any solid lines, without outlining anything, we can go in here and just kind of slowly build it up. And one thing that I am so hard-headed with is I always go too heavy. I always want to put too much paint in there. It is so much easier to add paint than it is to take away the paint. So we're going to concentrate on just trying to go light, take it easy. We're not in any hurry. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of dry that up a little bit. And we're just going to start going in here. And we can take this. You can use your stencil as much as you want or as little as you want. And it's real flexible, so you can get to the part you need. And see how we use this to really exaggerate that and make a more definition in there. See how I'm kind of just folding it. And adding more paint ever so lightly, and it doesn't take much in order to get that real defined area right there. And it's your soft and sharp edges what make your art look good. See how we kind of have this soft edge around it because everything is just rolling around. And then here in the middle, where we have this defined brow and this crack right here, it's a lot sharper. So just the contrast of the sharp and the soft will really give your piece a lot of interest. And typically, not always, but for all intents and purposes, your light is going to be casting down from above. So we're going to think about this catching light from the top. So if you put your hand here, you can see this shadow where your fingers roll around, and you can see that all the light is being caught right here, but then it starts to slowly roll around and get darker underneath. And it's things like that that if you think about it while you're doing your artwork, it'll make your artwork a lot better, because all you have to do is not think about it as a skull, but think about it as an object in which what it really is. And another good thing to do, I'm going to take a second here to talk about this, is every year, anytime I can find a Halloween clearance section, I get these cheap skulls. This one is just something I kind of Frankensteined. I didn't, you know, it was only $1, so I kind of tried to invent my